Amiee, top 1 to 3 things people should do in their CRM, but they aren't.
Customer experience. I'm just gonna use Josh because I know Josh's business really well since I'm so involved with it, right? He did 3 fairs back to back. It's his like annual 3 big fairs each year. And he had his best fair at each one. So best ever sales at every single one of those fairs, 3 in a row. He's marketing the same to them every single year. Come to the booth, put your name in the drawing for free Cutco. Come get signed up for sharpening. Come check out the specials, whatever. It's like, and here's my schedule. And it's actually still working. I feel like it actually gets stronger each year if you're doing it consistently. They're having a great experience when they see you. It becomes the tradition, right? They look forward to coming to the fair every year to see their Cutco rep. That team sells so much in repeat business. It's so awesome.
When a manager's like, how do you get great attendance to your team meeting every week? And it's like, give me your phrases and what, and it's like, well, no, dude, their first team meeting needs to blow their mind. Exactly. That's how you get great. So it sounds like for you, it's like, hey, it's not the marketing. It's what type of experience are you providing when they do show up? It's the same boring email. It's the same, like, it actually isn't anything different. We're doing the same things at the same time, all the time. It's what is their experience when they actually show up? Thanks for joining us on the CSP Hot Hands 60 Minutes of Fire podcast. My name's Brett Wiggins, and I get to serve as your host. So what is a CSP? CSP is a Cutco sales professional. There are a lot of them out there, and they've all got a different answer to the question, why do you sell so much? Our mission is to find out the answer to that question from as many of them as possible. These next 60 minutes are designed for Cutco sales reps who desire to learn from our best in the field. So we interview top sales professionals from around the country with questions provided by their peers to make all that happen. 60 minutes of fire means we get straight to the point. Let's do it. Welcome to CSP Hot Hands 60 Minutes of Fire. We are in episode number 5. I'm so excited for our guest today. I would go as far to say she has done more behind the scenes that leads directly to CPO produced than maybe anyone else associated with our CSP community. Is Amiee Mueller from our VastAction team. Anytime she references a resource, it's going to be available to us. After the show, I'll put it in our recess folder. So Amiee, if you do have any scripts or templates or anything that you're like, oh, this would help answer that question, don't feel the need to go through it now. We'll share it afterwards so we can spend the bulk of our time on these hard-hitting questions our CSP community has put together for you. I do want to thank directly those of you who submitted questions for this episode. It would not be very fire, Amiee, if I was the one coming up with these questions, as I'm sure you're aware. So Benji Lehman, who's joining us in our live Zoom audience today, Colin Herman, Chelsea McDougall, Janet Wiggins. What's up, Wiggy? Wiggy's out there as well. John Sasick and Kaiser Schwartz. You'll love to know this. We were talking about earlier. Many of them submitted these questions while they are in Cabo on our Midwest summer payoff trip. That tells you how much they didn't want to miss out on asking Amiee Mueller their questions. Okay. That's commitment. They may have had a cerveza in hand and feet in the sand, but we find a way. Okay. Are you ready to jam?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Okay. So when did you start selling Cutco?
Oh gosh, so long ago. 1995, September, my first semester of sophomore year.
At Ball State. Chirp.
Ball State University. That's
I
right.
love it. When did you help create VastAction?
That came about in 2013. A couple of years previous to that, people kept asking us to sort of help them with that stuff. And so it took us a couple of years to be like, okay, I guess we should do
You were kind of forced into making this a business at first by the community, which is an awesome sign. Obviously, it speaks to how great you guys are at it. You might not know this question off the top of your head, but which VastAction client is your best year ever in CPO?
So, I mean, let me step back and say this.
Go ahead. Yeah.
There are a variety of types of clients because we have some clients who are just in the CRM, right? But they do all their own marketing and stuff. We have some clients who use the CRM and our marketing services. We have some clients who use our CRM and marketing services and coaching services. Some use that and admin. I mean, there's so many different things. So when almost
pick one to highlight without picking favorites. What's one best year ever?
No favorites. Like I think all of the $1 million shippers the ones who have done $1 million in a year, I think they all use the CRM. So they're all
Oh, wow.
clients to an extent. But
Okay.
of the people who use like our marketing and like that use us for almost everything, there's like Brandon Brown, right?
Okay.
Has done that and uses us. Josh Mueller, his best year so far, of course, is 900 grand. He's going for $1 million this year. He's obviously uses us since it all started with
It
Josh
kind of
Mueller.
makes sense. He might
Right.
get a
Rob protects
discount.
our CRM,
Yeah.
like Rob will randomly use
So
our
somebody like
marketing.
Brandon, Brandon, it sounds like he's got the holistic VastAction approach. Okay. What percent,
Yes.
and you might not know, but what percent, if you had to break down his sales, are booth, service, past customer marketing? Any idea
Oh
there?
my gosh, that's a really great question. In fact, and because I'm gonna throw out some other names because I don't want to make
Yeah.
it sound like it's because
Yeah.
it's just like Brandon. I do
Yeah.
love Brandon, but we work with Seth Kinzer and Bert Wicks and like Brett Kramer and there's so many people, Rob
Yeah.
Rarenchek, and like the people on this call we actually work with, like love you guys in the Midwest as well. So there's like so many. I'm forgetting tons of names. I just feel bad if I throw out one name. I feel like I gotta throw out all.
This isn't an Academy Award speech.
I know exactly. Like,
We're good.
thank you.
Yeah.
No, so but here's what I will tell you. So they all vary, right? They all have, it's funny because CSPs all have similar businesses, but they all also have different businesses, right? How much they put
Sure.
into either the events program or the realtor program or the business gift program or the federal program, or do they really lean into service events or service calls, or are they really leaning into marketing? Like we have some CSPs who lean so much into marketing that they sell over 100K a year just on the phone and by email and that kind of stuff. So everybody's different. What I really tend to look at when I look at numbers is not necessarily how that all breaks down, though I do have some of that for people like Josh and Brandon because we do their stats. But I look more at like what's their past customer repeat business and what's their newly generated business that year. What we help with the most is just getting repeat business, like long-term loyal clients, right? Repeat sales from the people you've already sold to once. And so more than we help with getting new clients, right? And so it's exciting though, because there's a lot of numbers out there. Like even Rarenchek, as you probably know, I think he told me last year he sold I think it was like 700 grand of his 1.3 million or whatever last year was to repeat business. Josh's repeat business is like when he did 900 grand, I think 600 or 700 grand was repeat business. It's not like they're big numbers, and that's kind of like the same for all those big guys. I don't know that I've seen anyone hit 1 million yet for a year who hasn't had a good amount of repeat business.
Right.
It's not business. Yeah.
And that, I mean, there were probably years and years and years at Cutco where it was an afterthought until you guys came along and it was like, hey, this is a big area of opportunity. And it's probably a lot of fun to be able to create those long-term relationships. What other titles do you have in life outside of, last role in Cutco, district manager, after that, what are some titles that we've gained along the way?
So do you mean just within Cutco or outside?
Outside everything.
Outside. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm an author, published author. That's exciting. You should check out Destination Awesome. It's a lot of fun. Fun read. And
Destination Awesome.
Destination Awesome. Get the
there might be a link to it in the resource folder. We'll see.
It's actually fun. One of my favorite comments, I've gotten it twice. My favorite comments I've ever gotten in my life probably are people that came up to me and said, I'm not a reader. I've only read like 2 books ever, but I read your whole book. And I was like, yes.
Nice.
That was my favorite. Anyway, so yes, a lot of fun. I'm a speaker, between the time of before VastAction started getting so busy that I had to really focus everything here. I was traveling and speaking at college campuses and business associations and that kind of stuff, which I love to do. Nice. I'm a wife. I've been married now for, I think it was 19 years. That's right. 19 years. So
19 years.
I know.
I mean, we never ask a lady her age, but that's a lot. It feels like half your life. It feels like it should be.
Well, when I tell people when I started Cutco, I'm like, yeah, I'm really old. I started Cutco before so many people listening to this were even born, probably. And so,
correct. That is correct. I can confirm. Yes, that is correct.
Exactly.
Official title at VastAction?
Well, I just say owner usually. Because that's true, co-founder, owner. But what I do at VastAction, I manage the team. So I guess you could say I'm HR. I also usually I'm the creator of the content. So
you are like many founders out there. You wear lots of hats.
Right.
You are.
I do the finances. I'm CFO.
What's the last fun thing that Amiee Mueller did when she wasn't helping CSPs sell lots of knives?
Oh my gosh, we've done so many fun things. I don't even know what the last fun thing is, but since I learned early on, I wanted to really push myself to do things that scare me, just to
Yeah.
build that muscle more than anything.
Yeah.
We've done skydiving and bungee jumping and whitewater rafting and rock climbing and rappelling and just all that stuff. So, I mean, that's a lot of fun.
What was
Adrenaline
one fun
fun.
thing in October that you
Oh,
guys
in
did?
October. What I do oh, because we're in October right now.
Yeah.
I had to look back at my calendar and be like, what have I done? I don't even know. So that's a really tough question. I'm sorry. We'll have to come back to that. I can't
Okay,
think of
we can come back when it hits you. You let us
it.
know. And then last thing, and then I've got I wanted to dig into some CRM questions. But what's something in the works? Maybe it's a VastAction feature, maybe it's a program, a business relationship. It could be Cutco, non-Cutco that you're excited about.
Something in the works that I'm excited about with related to VastAction. I mean, there are definitely a lot of little things in the works.
Yeah.
Things are always moving, by the way. And reps know this too, right? CSP, the ones on this call. Like every time a new product comes out or a new anything, we have to like update everything,
Yeah.
all the they use. So we have a lot of that stuff, like new product promos or offers or all that stuff, right? To get out to the field. But we're looking at taking on another full-time person, which would be great. And that's going to be really
Fun.
exciting to get another person on the team because we just are all at capacity trying to help.
Anything specific that they would be dedicating time toward, or just, hey, we're going to teach you everything. Shadow me. Here we go.
Yeah, it's more of that. Shadow me.
Yeah.
I want to work on some higher level stuff that I just don't have time
Yeah.
to schedule right now. So I need someone that can maybe take some stuff off my plate as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I hired a writer last year, which was the first time someone else on the team was writing.
Oh, I bet that was like, oh, because you probably love doing it and you're really good at it. Was that hard?
Well, I do love doing it and I am good at it, but it was also overwhelming because it was so much, right? And so it wasn't hard. I'm so glad I did it and it's made such an improvement and such a difference. It's really helped a lot on our team. Because they can go to him now for help instead of me all the time.
All of you CSPs out there waiting to hire someone to do the thing that you get paid more per hour than you should be. Do it. Like, go do it. You won't regret it. If you're anything like me, you love trading time for money. And anytime I can pay someone to do something that'll free up my time and allow me to focus on the big rocks of my business or just get time with my family back, I usually do it. Rising stock has saved me tens of thousands of dollars on taxes over the last 15 years. My CPA has actually given me a discount before because of how detailed Rising Stock's P&Ls are, and it makes it so easy to make a plan with my CPA and my financial advisor because my books are always up to date. Rising Stock is the basic plan for CSPs who are sole proprietors, and MyBooks.pro is the bookkeeping available for those who are incorporated. You can choose to take advantage of everything they have to offer or just have them do your books. They really just want to help you run an awesome business. I highly encourage you to at least check them out if you don't feel 100% confident that your current system for the financial side of your business is serving you in a way that saves you time and saves you money. If you've got any questions and you're just curious about what this program entails, you can text them directly to set up a time to chat before committing to anything. Just go to linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60 and choose which option is best for you. Amiee, top 1 to 3 things people should do in their CRM, but they aren't. Like the things that make you want to scream because they are leaving so much CPO on the table or repeat business or relationships, but they're just not taking action.
Yep. Such a good question. And I could probably answer with so many answers. Let me say this.
Yeah.
And this is coming down. This has been coming. So I'm also part of the Business Gift Council, right? Which the whole, if for anyone that doesn't know, the CGP, right? Cutco Gifting Professional, the whole program is coming out. It's rolling out. They're going to be announcing it at the CGP Summit in January.
Let's go.
So I know it's so exciting. And so, we're working on tools for that too. But what's cool is the constant talk right now in that group about customer experience, right? And that's coming actually from pretty high places like John Rulin's company, right? His partner, all that kind of stuff. So customer experience. So here's why that I think that's important, because part of what we're noticing now that we've been doing this for a decade of really generating repeat business is that the better the customer experience is, the more likely, right? The more loyal they are to you, the more likely they are to buy again. Like there was a day where they could only get Cutco from one rep. Like back in the day when I started, they could only get Cutco from one rep. You were the rep. They either bought it from you or they didn't get Cutco. They couldn't go to a store. They couldn't get it online. They didn't call Cutco corporate. They didn't do any of that stuff. Now they can get Cutco a lot of ways. So you have to work a little harder at being a person they want to be loyal to, right? So customer experience is really important. And so the CRM, what's funny about it is there are a lot of people, and this is fine. You can use it any way you want to. There's a lot of people who get the CRM. We load the data in from Cutco Corporate every time they process an order, it feeds in after it ships or whatever. And so that's all they do. So they don't touch the CRM other than to go in and send out an email and generate more action, whichever they're trying to do in that email. But they're not really keeping the CRM up to date. So where I see the difference is for the people who are like going in and taking notes, adding the wish list, making a note of the communication you just had with them so that 2 years from now, when they talk to you again, you can read that note and remember where you left off.
Anytime my brain goes, you'll remember, I will not remember. That's my trigger to go do the thing that I got to do. So for you, it's, hey, you can use it. Like you can buy the Ferrari and drive around in the parking lot if you want to. But dude, open that thing up. Okay? So let me ask this. What's like
task. Task. Because the customer says, call me back. Like when a customer buys from you and they go, I'm going to buy this now, but I want to look at cookware in 6 months or a year later. Set the task, call them back in 6 months about cookware. Cause you'll forget, like Brett said, and then you like may never get that order. But if you call them back when you said you were going to call them back. And the cool thing about tasks is if you set a task, even if you don't remember to go log into your CRM, it emails you when the task is due to be like, hey, don't forget.
What's a good strategy? What's a good system? Who's really great at tasks and what are they doing? How have they built it into? I'm sure it's okay, I get done with the demo and I've got a checklist or an interaction. What is the best system for that you're seeing that works?
Yep. Good question. So everybody has their system, right? And it's fine to create a system that works for you. It doesn't have to be like anyone else's system as long as it works for you. The trouble with the data feeds is that there is a delay, right? Because you process the order and it doesn't actually feed in until the order ships. And that's just because that's the one order process that every single order in Olean goes through. There's like 20 order status processes that they all hit different ones, but that's the one that every one of them hits. So that's the one they use to trigger the feed, right? So they all get triggered. But the problem with that is that you get some information right away, but then they're not really in your CRM yet because you're waiting for the order to feed.
Right.
So it is a little bit of a process, but we have a process that we've talked to a lot of people, I think, who use it, where it's really more like you have the order, you do anything immediately you have to do, process the order. If they ask you for something that needs to be done in the next 48 hours, just do it now. Right. Set that order aside. We have files, right? We set the order aside and then we come back to all those orders 2 weeks later and we go back through all of them to go back into the CRM after it's fed. And then add in all the notes, the wish list, the second phone number, the second address, the second email, whatever, all that stuff. The task that you want to follow up with later, like send a thank you card, like all that stuff. So it is a little bit of a pain because before we had the feeds, we do all that immediately, right? Get the order, process it, whatever, and then go do everything in the CRM. But you were doing more work then because you were having.
You can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Like and I think that So from a manager perspective, when I teach manager career fairs, I'm like, hey, like you could try to hit every single person that walks by. And while you're talking to this student, say, hey, I'll be with you in a sec. Like, it's like, no. Whoever you're in front of gets 100%. Make sure that interaction is on the money. Make sure you firm up because it doesn't matter about that interaction if they don't show. And to your point, it's like, well, don't move on to the next thing unless you fully make sure this one's taken care of. Such a good point and hard to learn. It's not easy. We're go mode, but I think once you see the power of it, it's like, I can't imagine, you probably can't imagine not having somebody do that.
Correct. Plus, by the way, as a consumer, I get frustrated when other businesses call me and I just want to be like, are you updating your CRM? Because they'll call me and ask me the same question 3 times and I'll be like, oh, I already answered.
Depends on what day they call me, which Brett they receive. Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that you see a lot of CSPs doing with their marketing, but they shouldn't be? Like any mistakes where you're like, I don't know about that.
No, easy. So here's the biggest mistake I think that most people make before they are taught this, right? And that is that, especially nowadays, it's becoming even more important as time goes forward. And that is because there's so much noise now, right? So much noise and technology and automation and all that stuff. And everything is so impersonal because of that.
Yep.
And so the biggest mistake I see people make in their marketing is when they send something out and they speak to the whole group. So the way they write it is, I love all of you, and this is going out to all of you. It's like that kind of verbiage of like all of you and all of you and all of you. And I see that a lot. And it makes sense because when you're writing it, you're actually in your head, you're talking to all of them. But just like everything else, you want it to feel like it's personal to them. So you want to write it in a way that's more like, hey, Brett, I appreciate you so much. Sometimes I'll even put like for you and all of my other clients, but I still want it to feel like I'm talking to you, not to everyone, right? So that's the main thing, is making it as personal as possible. Because that's, again, the thing that's going to set you apart. It's interesting because I see some marketing go out that's very corporate looking, and that's fine. It looks really nice. And I think it helps Cutco. It's the same reason that like Apple, Tesla, any of those guys who market, they don't market to like, they're not marketing to build a relationship.
Apple doesn't want you to love the guy at the Apple store because he might not be there. They want you to love Apple. Yeah.
That's correct. And so if you're sending out corporate stuff, it's like, cool, you're helping Cutco Corporate, and that's cool. I love Cutco Corporate. We should help them. But like if you're trying
They've got a huge marketing budget on their own. They got it. Steve P, shout out Steve P. They're on it. They got it.
Exactly. But if you want them to like be loyal to you, give them a reason, right? And be a human and like, talk to them like a human. That's all.
Is there, and there might not be, is there a right time to address all of your clients at once? Like, is there an advantageous moment to do that?
That's a good question. I mean, it's not going to hurt. I mean, here's the thing. If majority of your communications are personalized, right?
Yeah.
And so they feel like and then once in a while, something goes out where they can tell that it's going out to everybody, but you're specifically saying it that way. I think that's fine. I think you just have to have at least some of it be personalized.
The one example the reason I asked that is, Mike Dowd has created a cult following in his customer base on social media. So, but that's social media, right? That's different than the marketing we're talking about. It's interesting to think about. Is there a time to do that? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and he does, to Mike Dowd's credit, by the way, he also is one of the best as far as he gets. I don't want to say best because I don't want it to sound like I know exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
See a lot of his emails because he's in our CRM, right? But he does have one of the highest repeat order rates, right? So that's what he's really good at, is he does get a ton of repeat business. You're right. He's really good at the social media stuff too. And what I can tell you is he's the perfect example actually of the fact that your emails don't have to be perfect. Like he's not trying to make them look perfect and corporate, and like his are kind of a mess sometimes. No offense, Mike. But
it's a great example of like,
right.
I think people hold back on doing things because it's like, I want it to be perfect. Exactly. It's like, dude, what was Facebook's line? Done is better than perfect. It's like, just do it and we can make it better as we go.
He's consistent, right? He's consistent. He's fun. He's personal. Like he's totally human. He talks about his family. Yep. He does all kinds of stuff. It's definitely not corporate. Like that's what he does really well. He's consistent. He's personal. He's got a lot going on. And so, yeah, he's really good at that stuff for sure.
I love, he's a good follow, by the way. You're not following Mike, go for it. Now if I'm on the newer marketing side of my business, I'm just really getting started. I know we've got some CSP candidates and kind of first, second year CSPs that listen too. What would you, if I'm nervous, if I'm like, I haven't really spent money on my business yet, and I've gotten this far, like, what would you recommend diving into initially? Where do you believe a CSP should start investing into marketing?
That's a good question. And by the way, I did listen to your interview with Jess. And so the same way Jess was like, coaching, is an investment, not an expense. The same way you guys talked about that. Right. So there are some of these things that we feel the exact same way about. Yeah. But I would say, here's what I would say. Even if you don't want to spend any money, you can start doing this stuff, not spending any money. Because when you're younger in the business and you don't have as many customers, it's not like you're blasting out to 6,000 customers. So if you have 200 customers or 300 customers or whatever it is, if you wanted to, you could sit down for an hour a day for a week and just send the same email. Like don't send one email to 300 people on Gmail or whatever. Like sit down and like, you can copy paste, put a different name in, copy paste, put a different name in. Cause you don't want everybody to see everybody's email addresses. They don't like that. Right. Yeah. Blind carbon copy, whatever. But you can get emails out to people that are very simple of just, hey, was thinking about you, appreciated you, thanks so much for your time again. Just thought I came across this and thought you might like it, and then put a cool recipe in there. That's all it takes. It doesn't have to be a lot. So just, or a simple text, right? From your phone to their phone, not like through a texting system. It doesn't have to cost you anything to do those things. And if you do those things early on, you start getting customers used to it so that even when you do get into a system someday, it's already working. And that's usually what, if every CSP that has been with us for a long time, if I could tell you what most people say, the only downside is they all say, I wish I had started this stuff sooner. Because so many of us have customer lists where we don't even communicate.
Oh, I can't, like the idea of like importing all of these clients that were before my CRM, they don't have everything. It'd be worth it, but man, you're talking about, I might be underestimating a full weekend of no work, no shifts, no, like, I'm just going to do this for 12 hours a day, 2 days. I just want to throw up thinking about it.
So here's what's funny, actually, because you just made me think of this. So there's been so many times when someone joins the CRM, buys an email from us, sends it out, and then they'll send me a message like, the response I got from that one email just paid for the entire CRM and marketing for the year. And I'm like, I know, right? But that's just because it was that first email and they hadn't talked to those people for like years.
Imagine if you were doing this every single campaign for the last 20. Yeah.
Right. So even though it was good, it would be better if they had all been communicating with them, the whole time. But so to start off with, you can do it free. Now, when you are ready to start paying for tools, the first tool you need is a CRM. So even if all you're using it for is the database task management, like taking notes on people, that's really, really important. And that's not inexpensive because our lowest level CRM is like $20 a month. So if that's all you're using it for, super, super easy. When you get to the point where you want to start sending out emails and that kind of stuff, then that's another level, right? There's more expense in that. But that's why you do it in stages when you're ready for it. And that's where you do it at a time where when you're sending email out, the amount of response you'll get from it will pay for that email because your numbers are enough with how, your list size and that kind of stuff, that the response rate and all these different things that come into play will make sense because it's still profitable. So I used to, even early on, since we, like you said, started this business based on people asking us to. It wasn't really our plan initially. So the first few years, at the end of the year, I'd always sit down and like send out surveys of like, are you profiting? Like, are you like whatever? Because I didn't want people spending money on stuff that they weren't like making money back. So I'm like, are you making money off this stuff? And so like, it's crazy. And then even when the pandemic happened, I was kind of worried because I was like, oh no, reps lost events, they lost service, they lost all this stuff. And like, how are they going to continue to pay for their CRM and their marketing and all that stuff? And like, I don't think we lost a single membership through that whole thing.
The number of people I've had talking to say that as of that point in time, 2020 was their best year ever is, it speaks to, that's got, I think in a lot of cases it was, I'm going to take my marketing seriously because I have to. Mm-hmm. A phrase that's kept coming up on every single episode has been, don't waste a crisis. Like, they used that crisis as like, I don't have any other options. I have to. And did you see any turn of the tide in marketing during COVID out of a necessity?
What's funny is a little bit. Most of the people we were working with were already doing a really good job of being consistent, and they just had to lean into it a little bit more when that happened. And then because of all the stuff going on, we were providing free emails to a lot of people and just all kinds of stuff to try to just do what we could to help the field as well. And so that was great. Like, people were getting responses. I think what was cool to see at that time was how much leaning into the messaging of like, we can do this together, American made, American company support, that kind of stuff. And then like that stuff really seemed to drive a lot of results with customers. They really appreciated the whole, like, and also we had reps doing the appreciation messaging of like, let me know if I can be of help. Or
if you're a CSP listening right now, I would ask myself, what did I do when my back was against the wall in 2020 that created such great results? And what does that look like in 2023? Because there's a story like that is available to you right now in your situation, wherever you're at, that could speak to your customers really, really well. That maybe you're like, oh, shows are back, so I'll just hit the button and Amie's got it. And that's okay too. I'm sure she loves that. But I think that might be a good question to ask. When it comes to creating a budget for marketing, now, This is something else that I think our CSP team has worked on. I talked to the Hall of Fame group at Net last year, and some of the financial advice that I gave, I was surprised at oh my gosh, I've never done that. There's a long list of things. So first of all, like creating a budget, because you do run a business, right? Mm-hmm. But when creating a budget around and for marketing, what type of advice do you have for CSPs when they're thinking about their year-long, investment of marketing?
For sure. So, I mean, budgeting in general is really important, right? Especially from a professional standpoint. So the same way that John Ruhlin teaches, like every business should really take 10% of their profits or revenue, I can't remember if it's revenue or profits, I think it's profits, every year and reinvest that into gifting, right? There's got to be a percentage of money, I think, that you probably just set aside that goes into my business growth account, whether that's going to be marketing or buying tools for your business or whatever, but there's some percentage you should probably be pulling aside to use for that stuff. And it doesn't have to be like a ton. I actually, when I helped the TGP team with their state fair projects every year. And so we were at their last state fair prep meeting previous to this last, round of fairs. And I had actually gone through all the numbers to give every single person there how much they had spent on marketing for like 2 years with us, and like how much they profited from the fairs and all that stuff. And it was like the amount that people spent on marketing compared to the amount they made was like, the marketing was so insignificant when it came to the cost of it, really. So even if you just make sure that you're doing that thing of like taking money and setting it aside. Now, having said that, if you're trying to get an idea of how much it's going to cost, well, that's where you can always reach out to like the VastAction team if you want to get an idea of like, hey, what do these types of things cost, so that you can then sit down with your calendar. And we always teach everybody, a lot of people do an annual marketing plan with us, where at the beginning of the year, they just go and they go, okay, my events are here. I'm going to do service here. I'm going to do my sales here. And they get everything kind of planned out in the calendar. And then you can look at those things and go, great, what are these things going to cost me? That's where we give them an entire quote of like, the whole year is going to cost this much.
So helpful.
Single thing costs. And then a lot of them go, cool, sign me up. And then we just charge them monthly for the year, whatever the amount is, so that by the end of the year, it's
Don't
covered.
even feel it.
Right. It's just really easy. So not that they have to do that with us, they can do that with themselves, but that seems to be a really easy way to do it.
For sure. Absolutely. Now if I'm the rep out there going, but I have tried marketing, and I maybe it's a feeling, but maybe there are some people there that are like, I looked at my P&L and I didn't have the return that I wanted to. What would your thoughts be for that person? What should they consider? What questions should they ask? What should they look at? Because clearly it's working for the top reps in our business. If they're in that small piece of the pie that's like, it didn't go the way I expected, what would you say?
Yeah. So I'd say a couple of things. One thing is, even with Josh, someone who's been doing marketing for a while, most marketing works. There's still on occasion where one thing just doesn't hit well, right? Sure. So like, first of all, don't base your entire marketing plan or anything.
If that's your thought and it was based on one email, we just need more shots at the hoop, right?
Not a very big data set, correct? But if you're looking at a year and you're like, okay, I'm just not getting the results I want. Well, it occurs to me that it would make sense to reach out to people who do get good results and try to at least do somewhat of a comparison of maybe what does the messaging sound like, or what is the timing of it, or there's a lot of stuff with marketing, like you don't want to overwhelm an email with too much variety. Each email probably should have its own purpose. Like initially we started being like, our emails were like, here's a link to schedule service, and here's a recipe, and here's a thing on the event we're going to be at, and here's the sale, and
I love my daughter's school. I love my daughter's school. The weekly newsletter, if I were to print it out, I think there are CVS receipts that we would rival. Okay. Like it is massive. So objective, like there's a lot of things to look at.
Yeah. So each marketing piece should have its own purpose. So you can look at different things, but you can also look at the stats, at least of email marketing, right? Look at your open rates, look at your click rates, that kind of stuff, just to try to get an idea of what is working or isn't. But then here's what I can tell you too, Brett. So even though we've sent the same exact email out for different reps, like we'll create a template, we'll customize it to the rep, but essentially it's the same message, right? Same images, same layout. And then one rep gets a lot better results than the other. Here's what I really hope that everyone hears when I say this too. Marketing will not solve your problem if the problem is more of a like customer experience, customer service issue. And what I mean by that is we've had people in the past too, where like they go, I don't understand why I'm not getting any results on these sale emails I send out. And then I look at their stuff and I'm like, well, firstly, you're only sending sales. You're not ever sending any value. You're not offering service. Like, so eventually they're just going to tune out. Right. And then also like, if you have that customer list where like they reach out to you and they go, hey, I need help with this, or I need help with that, but you just aren't good yet at your system. So you're not getting back to them in a timely manner. You're not helping them. They don't feel like they got the service they thought they were going to get. Well, then sending out a cool email is not going to solve that problem either.
It almost is a magnifier. It's like whatever the state of your business is, if it's great and you provide great service and people love you, this marketing is going to magnify that. And if you're lazy and don't fulfill promises and don't provide service, and you're only trying to sell, then they're already going to feel a certain way about you. Seeing your name pop up in an email is going to trigger some negative reaction. Right?
Or they're just like everybody else is busy and they're just like, oh, I don't need any Kaggle right now. Delete. You know, if they see it come through and they're just like, oh, I don't need Kaggle right now. Delete. And they don't even open it. But that's why if you send enough value that they go, oh, that was a cool recipe, or, oh, that was a really fun thing. Then they're like, I wonder what Brett sent me this time. And then they open it. And at least in that time, maybe it's a sale and they're like, oh, maybe they need it or maybe they don't, but at least they looked at it.
I think it sounds like it's where's their heart at? Is their heart truly in servicing and growing a really cool community of clients and taking care of people, or is it just to sell? And if their heart's in the right place, they're gonna be making the right actions, right? The cool thing is that usually those people sell more than the people trying to sell. So I think there's something to be learned there. Now, for a veteran rep, they've been around a long time. Maybe they're starting to notice they've done marketing for a long time, but they're starting to notice their marketing, it's not having the same pop. It's a little stale. Just not that maybe it's not driving attendance to their events as it has in the past. Maybe there's a lower open rate from things like their annual sale. What would your suggestions be to kind of turn things around? I feel like as a veteran rep, say somebody that's been selling Cutco they've been a CSP for over a decade. What are some things outside the box, or maybe it's not outside the box, that you'd tell them to check out?
You know, what's funny is when you ask me that question, it's not a question I've considered before, but I actually don't know that I've seen that really happening. So what I have seen happening, but I will answer your question, what I have seen happening is more of the like, so for example, like Josh, I'm just gonna use Josh because I know Josh's business really well since I'm so involved with it. Right. But he just did those fairs, right? He did 3 fairs back to back. It's his like annual 3 big fairs each year. And he had his best fair at each one. So best ever sales at every single one of those fairs, 3 in a row.
He's on a heater. He's on a heater.
Yes, that's right. He's working hard for that goal, man. He's marketing the same to them every single year, right? Customers know exactly what to expect because the emails are different every year, like new design, new pictures, new colors, but they're the same every year. It's like, come to the booth, put your name in the drawing for free Cutco, come get signed up for sharpening, come check out the specials, whatever. It's like, and here's my schedule, right? Like, so, and it's actually still working. I feel like it actually gets stronger each year if you're doing it consistently. They're having a great experience when they see you. It becomes the tradition. Right? They look forward to coming to the fair every year to see their Cutco rep. So we have many people on their team. Like that team sells so much in repeat business. It's so awesome.
It reminds me of like when a manager's like, how do you get great attendance to your team meeting every week? And it's like, give me your phrases and it's like, well, no, dude, their first team meeting needs to blow their mind. Exactly. That's how you get great. So it sounds like for you, it's like, hey, it's not the marketing. It's what type of experience are you providing when they do show up?
Correct. But then on those times where you need to either really make something happen just because there's something going on, where you're like, I need to hit this goal, or like you said, maybe something feels a little stale and you're trying to like reinvigorate it, then that's where you just come up with some new cool promotion you haven't done before. So like the year that they lost all the fairs during COVID, that whole team pitched in together money to like have these huge prizes. Like we're giving away an Ultimate set. We're giving away a cookware set. We're giving away all this stuff. So they all put money in, and then they ran their promotions, and then everybody, their customers, and then all their customers went to that one big drawing. And then there was drawings that got paid out. So like you can do really special, fantastic promotions that kind of reinvigorate stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to. And it's true, by the way, too, because what's interesting is Josh was even talking about how the cookware promotion Cutco just ran. It's over now, but the one where they bought the cookware set and they got the free baking set, right? He's like, when I was standing at the booth and it was like the last day of that promotion, and I was saying to people, like, if you like this cookware, you got to get it today because this is the last day that corporate's running this promotion, right? So like sometimes just having those special promotions is enough of an urgency creator, right?
Use it to your advantage. It's there anyway. They're gonna see it. They're gonna know.
100%. So
I think that when it comes to that, it's the same boring email. It's the same, like, it actually isn't anything different. We're doing the same things at the same time all the time. It's what is their experience when they actually show up. Now it's become clear to me that you have your hands and fingers all over a lot of stuff, whether it's at VastAction. Is Cutco is or is not your only client at VastAction? You guys have.
They're not our only client, but we have leaned into Cutco for sure. Because we were gonna like spread our wings, and then Cutco was like, "I'd really like you to focus, like let's focus, let's do some more stuff." We're like, "All right."
So you've got things going on though. And I've been told you are one of the most efficient human beings God has ever created and planted on this earth. How do you get so much done in what I've been told is a very, very little amount of time?
I appreciate the compliment, so thank you. I do feel like I'm a pretty productive person. So, I mean, nothing you probably haven't heard before. So, I use all the same tools people talk about. I use the to-do list to keep track of every single, so here's the little things, right, that I've learned. And some of it I've learned from other people too. I didn't just come up with it, but just the stuff of no matter where I am, if anything comes up where someone's having a conversation with me and I'm like, oh yeah, they asked me to do something. I'm like, cool. Yep. I will get that done. I open up my phone immediately and put it on my to-do list. I do not give my brain even 5 minutes to forget that. I'm like, I just put it on the list now. If I can't do it now, I'm going to put it on the list now. I'm going to take some sort of action now. Even before, iPhone made text able to be unread, unread. It used to be as soon as you opened it, they were gone. You're like, oh.
Worst.
At that point, I would send myself an email, go back to that text so that I wouldn't forget it. I was so excited when it came out that we could actually mark them as unread now. That's the best feature they came out with in a while. So it's take action right away. I definitely have my calendar. I do the calendar blocking like everybody else talks about, right? I do all that stuff. I really focus on, as a leader of this team, making sure that one of my first priorities is making sure that anybody else on my team has what they need to get stuff done. Now, this will speak well to the people that you work with, your CSPs who have assistants, because I even have other assistants who call me and go, help me. How do I handle this? This rep is doing this or not doing this or whatever, right? And so I think a big thing is, if you have assistants, for example, it's you have to make sure that one of your priorities is just getting to them what they need to do their job. Because the way I look at it is, if I'm the bottleneck, then everything stops, right? So I have to get them that stuff so that they can do their job, and then I can move on to the other things I want to do afterwards. But that way we're getting more done as a team.
So you're, for those with assistants, it's hey, I actually prioritize their to-do list ahead of my to-do list, because that allows me to go, that's taken care of. Now I can focus on these other rocks.
Correct. And then you're getting way more done. Because if you are the bottleneck and you're not getting them what they need, now they're stalled, right? Waiting for you, and you're possibly stalled because you're so busy or whatever. Now nothing's getting done. So So that's where and the other thing about it is I'm just very systemized. So I think part of why we are so efficient as a team is because we have so many great systems in place where what takes us probably a couple of minutes to do would take other people a lot longer, but just because we've already put the system in place to make it as easy as possible. And that's really helpful to know as well from a rep standpoint, or from working with an assistant, for a rep standpoint.
Staying on the assistant topic, what are the weekly tasks that a CSP should make sure an assistant accomplishes to keep their CRM up to date? What are those big rocks?
Well, this is one of those things that I'm happy for sure. Remind me, I'll send you because people have asked me that question so many times. I put together a document common assistant tasks, and it's long. I love it. So long, which is why I can't cover it all right now. But there's the simple stuff, a lot of assistants help with the processing of orders, help with sending out thank you cards, help with updating the CRM then after the order's been processed. A lot of assistants help with creating call lists or follow-up lists or mailing lists or whatever it is. A lot of assistants help with texting customers. A lot of assistants help with sending out when customers request. We have kind of an FAQ emails, right? Customers how do I send my Cutco back for sharpening? How do I get my lid unstuck from the cookware? Whatever. We have this series of emails of
having those one. I'm a big fan of text replacement. I don't know if you use this on iPhone or not, but basically you can teach it to, whenever I type this, just create this. and having those links ready for the questions like, my cookware is stuck. What do I do? How do I send my knives back? Huge. And I think those are the things that are oftentimes like a CSP will go, I gotta create something for that. And it's 5 years later. And it's like, I still got to create an easy response for that. But to your point, what I loved is you're so aware that you aren't going to be on top of it naturally, that it creates this situation where you are on top of it because you're not going to fool yourself. It's like, no, I'm sending the email right now. I like to text myself. That's my thing in the car. I'll send hey, Siri, send a text Brett Wiggins mobile. And you're just so, you're not going to trust yourself. It's like, hey, I need this. Do you remember a moment when that self-awareness kind of took over in those terms of like, where you actually started doing either the to-do list right away or emailing yourself or whatever?
I don't think it took long. I think it only took me a couple of times being like, oh, I missed that. Like I forgot to go back to that text. And I was like, I got to have a system. I think it was even Josh who was like, when that happens to me, here's what I do. I just send myself an email. And I'm like, great idea. I'm just like, it might not be the best way to do it, but it was a way that worked. So yeah.
And I can't believe we're like 15, 16 minutes before this is flying by. I've got plenty I want to get into. So I'm going to go into hyperspeed. Are you ready?
Yes.
You don't need to go into hyperspeed. You keep giving awesome
answers. Fine. I'm usually hyperspeed. I'm trying. Most people tell me this. I've been speaking on stage before and people are like, can you like slow down a little?
Can you repeat the last 14 minutes?
Exactly.
Is there any follow-up to that question in terms of what's the weekly checklist of CRM when it comes to marketing? Is there any weekly marketing? Like, hey, if I'm a CSP, here's the 1 or 2 big rocks every week I'm doing in terms of marketing?
Well, most of the marketing that goes out tends to be blasts. Like there are email campaigns and those are like set and forget because you don't have to do anything with those once they're going out. But then the blasts tend to go out to the whole list or like a segment of the list. So I don't know, I would call that a weekly thing other than, so here's the thing. The reason that the annual or the campaign marketing plan works so well for people is because people were reaching out being like, I struggle because I keep coming back to marketing every week and it's annoying and it's too much to think about and I'm overwhelmed and most of the time I'm running last minute on marketing and everything. So I don't even think marketing should be a weekly thing. At the very least, you're maybe looking at your email stats to see if anybody new clicked on anything each week that you might want to follow up with. But beyond that, marketing should be more of a longer term focus.
That's probably really good. That probably takes some pressure off some people that may have had that question of like, I'm not doing enough. It's like, well, maybe you're thinking you need to do more. And you brought up email marketing, outside of content emails, what are your guys' highest performing marketing strategies outside of that?
Yeah. So the 4 main types of emails that CSPs send are the event invites, right? So if you're working event, service offers, whether that's service calls or service events, either one, the value added emails, which are like content emails, and then the sale emails, right? Now there's a lot of other things like factory instructions and things that go out, little things or whatever, like we had a baby or, hey, I'm engaged or we just got married or whatever. There's all of those, but the main things are those 4 things. And they all perform, right? As long as you're doing what we talked about doing, you're taking care of your customers, all that stuff, like they all perform. But the key really to understand is that, I'll take that back. The content emails aren't designed to perform. So you're not going to, it's funny because I do have reps that are like, I get at least 1 order or 2 orders every single time I send out content, even though there is 0 call to action in the content email that says buy this product, right? The whole point of value added email is that you're not asking for anything and you're just providing value. That's the whole point, is to keep their eyes on your email because they open stuff and go, oh, cool, he sent me another cool thing and didn't ask for anything in return. Fantastic. So then they open other things, right? So the content email, you have to look at that as a whole annual strategy of how does your other marketing perform since they keep their eyes on your stuff because of the value you provide, right? So that one particularly, you're not going to look at it maybe profit loss just of that type of email. But beyond
but it's an important part of the recipe, right?
Correct. They help the other ones perform better. Don't
pick and choose. Like it's like, hey, I've seen people go, oh, well, that didn't work. That did. So I'm only going to do B from now on, when it was really like, no, right. A is what created the effect of B. So it really, it takes the whole thing.
And sometimes just timing, like you might have a service email that didn't perform as well, but maybe there was just a weird thing going on that time, or you didn't give them enough notice or just whatever. And it would have been fine if you do the same email again at a different time, like a lot of us too. I always tell people when they're like, I'm like, just test it. You never know till you test it. Test it. And then you can make decisions based on doing tests and getting a good data set.
You've heard it shared on the show plenty of times by now. You just aren't unlocking your true potential without intentional time to reflect on yourself and reflect on your business and decide what actions you need to take to make that next jump. When you're relatively new to the business, everything's exciting. You're mastering the basics, you're following a general guide given you by your manager, and it works. But at some point, your only options to get better results are to work harder or get better. I'm here to tell you, getting better is so much more fun and enjoyable. It's also the way to create long-term sustainable success. It's the difference between a sprinter and a marathon runner. Hang with me for just a minute or so if you could, because what I'm about to share with you changed the trajectory of not just my business, but my life. Trent Booth was one of the first people to ever pour into me as a coach. Working with him and utilizing resources provided by him helped me to double my business 3 years in a row. And it ultimately led to a division manager promotion and creating a team that grew over $5.6 million in annual sales. When I first went on the hunt to find partners for the podcast, I wanted to accomplish two things. I wanted to find someone who desired to have a larger impact on the CSP community and find someone who I believed filled a void. Trent Booth and the Veritas Leadership Group do both of those things. If you're currently part of a coaching program that you're fired up about, don't change a thing. My goal is to find those who are on the fence about coaching and haven't made the commitment yet. Veritas offers a flat monthly rate with no contract, meaning if you don't like what you're getting out of it, you can leave at any time. That's how confident they are that they can help you unlock your true potential. Trent is inviting anyone listening to hop on a 25-minute intro call to give you all the details and answer any questions about coaching with the Veritas Leadership Group. I still coach with Veritas to this day, and they're some of the most valuable minutes of my entire month, every single month. To schedule an intro call with Trent, go to linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the two E's. With a lot of reps, I feel like business gifts, to your point earlier, is the hot topic right now. And I think it is a huge area of opportunity. And I think Rob's definitely my, like, when I think business being from the Midwest, I think of Rob, so I bring him up a lot. But Rob, it feels like, has started to create some sort of system for the average rep, the average events team member to be able to implement business gifts. But I feel like there's a lot of events team members and CSPs that they haven't traditionally been a part of business gifts, but now they're looking to generate leads for businesses. So that the idea and the question of, hey, how do I create some sort of content, email, text, whatever strategy that's going to generate business referrals from my existing client base? Do you have a good answer to that question? It's probably different for everybody, but what's that look like?
Well, I can tell you a couple of things that have been really popular that have been working for people to get results. So, I mean, obviously one is at the booth. So anytime now that we have a number of people doing well with business gifts, seems to be pretty common that any event they work, even if it's a residential event, right? That while they're at the booth, they're still always asking every single person. So just last week, I was talking to someone who had their best business gift sales so far this year, like overall over 100 grand in business gift sales. And they were like, so here's what I've been doing that's been really good, is that after I get the order, like the residential order, whatever, and I've got the credit card, right? I'm writing up the order. Then that's where I go into that conversation of like, oh, great. You know, what do you do for work? And then go into the add-ons of business gifts if that comes to it. The other thing is a lot of times it's coming up before that because they have so many logos displayed in the booth now that it just naturally, customers are like, oh, what is this? And then they're oftentimes talking about business before they even get into what they would normally talk about with Cutco. So that's really helping, having a lot of different varieties, also having a lot of stories to go with the logos you're displaying. So like they're saying, you know, mom and pops and, you know, residential, realtor, roofing, like all different types of industries. And then having that be your customer and being able to be like, oh yeah, here's the story of that customer.
It's the same. I want something I always tell my managers is everything's a demo. So I'm like, everything's a demo. You're always going to build rapport, create the problem, create value, XYZ. Everything's a demo. Everything's a demo. How did we get referrals? How did we get residential referrals back in the day? We planted a seed. We showed the sheet of here's my happy customer list. Here's who all give me 10 referrals.
Yeah.
The same.
So that's the first thing, right? At the booth, always having the examples, having the stories for the examples, and like always asking, what do you do for work? But the second thing is we have had many reps who send out an email to every single one of their residential. So like there's an email they'll create or we'll create for them or whatever. That essentially the email is, hey, here's what's cool, program at Cutco, blah, 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 explain it. And then asking for the referral. Who do you know that owns a business? It's, helps make these decisions for a business, or who do you even know that works for a business that you think would enjoy to get Cutco as a gift for themselves, because they can recommend us to their managers. And then we can talk to them, like how cool it'd be if you could get Cutco from the place you work at, right? So all you have to do is recommend the people that you work with so that we can reach out or whatever. There's been a lot of reps who've gotten a lot of really good amounts of recommendations for business and realtor leads just using an email like that to their residential clients, right? So that's something else that I've seen work really well.
I'm sure the Business Gifting Council will have plenty of resources available for things like that.
Exactly.
Come on. So we were talking about records earlier before we started recording. And one of the things I said was, there's the John Rulin record book, and then there's everybody else, right? I understand you have a bit of a lead foot, and you may have the record for speeding tickets received. Is that
Josh? That is Josh. I had to yeah. And I don't think he was ever going to change until we moved, because the state we used to live in didn't put the points on your license. And the state we moved to did. And when we moved, our
state doesn't, you literally have unlimited amount of.
Well, it was tickets. Actually, technically it was Oklahoma, I think. And it was any ticket under 10. So like, even when you'd get stopped for like 14, the cop would always go, I'll just write it for 9. Cause like they're being cool about it, but they're still writing it. Right. So like, we moved to Texas, and then we immediately got dropped by our insurance company, because they're like, you have so many points. And I was like, what? And I had been with them for like over a decade before Josh joined my insurance. So I was like, okay, now we have to actually deal with it. He's gotten a lot better. Actually, he's gotten a lot better. We barely get tickets anymore.
So here's all I need to know.
Remember, by the way, let me give you another answer to an earlier question, which is fun stuff. Something I didn't mention that I did recently is go to a live comedy show. We do that all the time. So that's one of my favorite things.
Nice.
I'm really excited because Joe Rogan, you probably know Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Comedy club in Austin. And it's been like insane trying to get tickets. It's always sold out. We're actually going to his club next Saturday for the first time.
Oh,
it's going to be really fun.
Mm-hmm. Riley and I just went to Chappelle in Indy. And nice. It was awesome, man. I love Chappelle. So one more question. So because of Josh's speeding tickets, does the Mueller family budget include a line item that is just speeding tickets?
It doesn't. And that's probably why every time I get one, I'm like, what is this?
It's got to come from somewhere. You strike me as someone that tries to rarely allow yourself to have a bad day. Mm-hmm. And what brings so much joy into Amiee Mueller's life? Like, where's that come from? Is there something that's creating that?
You know what? Again, you and Jess talked about this on the call too. And I totally agree. And that is that it's always helped me to have positive inputs into my brain. So no matter how I'm feeling, because definitely I wake up on days where I'm like, I wish I could stay in bed all day. Right. So, but I can't, I got people to help. So I'm like, I got to get going. Yep. But I love all of those things of like good podcasts and TED Talks and good books and just, talking to someone who's amazing to talk to. I love Alex, all that stuff. That stuff really fires me up. So that helps my energy level, is just having those positive inputs.
Yep.
Beyond that, I mostly am just doesn't matter how I feel. I'm really one of those people that's like, I could be feeling as terrible as possible. And it's like, it doesn't matter. There are people counting on me and I have to get this stuff done. So I'm going to work through it, compartmentalize.
Well, it's so much better than your alternative, right? Like, what's the other option?
Exactly. You could just feel bad and wallow, or you could feel bad and get stuff done anyway. I mean, like, at least you benefit from this one. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's something that I should have asked you today that would have helped our CSP community?
You know, what's an interesting question that comes up to me once in a while that I haven't really done much with yet. And that is, how do you work with a spouse? Like how do you work with your spouse and, be with your spouse and not like kill each other?
I was going to say, the question can't just be, how do you work with your spouse? Lots of people do that, but it sounds like you do it successfully. You do it where it feels good. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I think a few things that help, and some of this just helps with the relationship in general, regardless of whether you're working together. We learned early on, because when we were young and early on in our marriage, we're at 19 years now, but like year 2 or 3 or something, we struggled a little bit, right? Yep. A lot of people know that story because Josh was like, maybe we should get a divorce. I'm like, whoop. Okay, so some step. But here's some things that help. Constant appreciation, right? Professional or personal appreciation of each other, both in person and in public, right? So we definitely try to show appreciation to each other for sure in a lot of different ways. And then also open communication. Doesn't matter how we're feeling. We always now just have the conversation right now and try to come to a conclusion, like a solution that works for both of us. That's really good. That's been helpful. And try to do it without like emotion and being defensive and all that stuff, even though it can be challenging sometimes. Also, I think it helps us that we really focus on our own projects. So we're not trying to both work on the exact same project or whatever. We both like, okay, I'm going to do this, you do this, I'm going to do this, you do this. And then we both have some autonomy. We both have our things that we're not necessarily always overlapping. And that's really good too. And we'll come to each other and go, hey, let me get your opinion on this. Let me get your opinion on that. But we're not being like, we're not telling each other how it has to be done, just sharing ideas and that kind of stuff. And I think that really helps as well. And then the other thing I think that's really good, besides quality time together, like make sure when you're together that because we spend so much time apart that when we are together, we try to like really be present, not be on our phones all the time, like do that kind of stuff. But the other thing that I think was huge actually is that we did the grow stuff together. So like, since I left college, I paid for college on my own selling Cutco. Yay, Cutco. I really appreciate Cutco for all it's done for my life. But even post-college, Josh and I spent a lot of money on like just seminars and programs and like the Tony Robbins stuff and then Brendan Burchard stuff and the Darren Hardy stuff and like all just one day seminars and all the stuff. But we did it together. I think that made a huge difference because I think I've heard spouses talk about how when one goes and they come home and then they're like, oh, and they're all excited. And the other spouse is like, whatever. Like, I don't get it, So doing those things together, I think also made us a lot closer and made it so we were both growing together, right? Which was great.
I'm in a unique situation compared to yours because my wife is a full-time, awesome, amazing stay-at-home mom. And to your point about doing it together, I realized there's like levels to it, right? At one point, and we've been married 9 years. And at one point I realized, I need to include her in all of the big plans I have professionally and all of it. And then this past year, I realized, no, I don't need to include her. It needs to start with her. And that, and she needs to be at the beginning of those conversations. So, I can speak to your 2-3 year, this is not working as well as we thought. I can speak to, and then there's, you learn along the way, but it sounds like as long as you're doing it together, those things are possible. Well, I want to just thank you so much. We're in such a unique situation in Cutco because there's so much giving back to the field and each other. And we're competing like people that are in the same territory, like helping one another so often. But that doesn't really happen elsewhere unless it's required or unless there's something in it for me or whatever the case may be. And I just love that the whole idea around VastAction was created around that specific idea of you guys were giving back, expecting nothing in return, trying to help others. And you were so world-class that they were like, no, we don't want to listen to you talk anymore. We're going to pay you to do this. You're great. Please. And that's been so cool to see you guys build a business that supports our community so well. And is so well respected. It's so cool to be able to watch. So I really, really do appreciate you coming on today. It was awesome.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And do not miss our upcoming CSP High Hands interviews. We've got Dante Reynolds on October 30th, Mike Totora November 14th. Josh Mueller's coming up down the line, but maybe Amiee will submit some absolutely embarrassing questions for me to ask Josh. And that would be great. I would love that. We will see you guys next time. Thanks for listening. And for some of you watching, I want to remind you that all resources from today can be found at linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the EE. If you want to be a member of our live Zoom audience for one of our upcoming shows, email bwiggins@vectormarketing.com. That's BWIGGINS@vectormarketing.com. If you loved what you heard today, I'd be honored if you followed, subscribed, or even rated us on whatever platform you use to find your 60 minutes of fire. We'll see you next time.